The shift is and still next to the tree.
Give everybody just a moment, get everybody situated, and then we'll begin our meeting. About 1 minute as everybody's gathering in the room. Call to order our September 18th, 2024 Transportation Policy Board. And before we ask for a motion for the approval of the minutes, we'll recognize our Clarksville Mayor, Joe Pitts, with the Clarksville MPO. Thank you for joining us, and maybe we can do some collaboration there. So thank you for being here on that. So next up, we need approval of the July 17, 2024 meeting minutes. So I have a motion. Have a second. Second. Any corrections to the minutes? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Next up, is there anyone here who wishes to make a public comment as we begin our meeting? With none, we're going to move on. We have somebody. All right, if you would state your name, organization you're with.
My name is Mark Cleveland. I am the CEO of Hitch Rewards. I've been busy trying to create alternatives and options for us to incentivize the public to make smarter mobility decisions for a significant period of time. I wanted to call your attention to a paper that was authored by myself, former Department of Transportation Commissioner from Rhode Island and Louisiana and New York City, which offers us some alternative views on how we might be able to move faster toward managed transportation on Nashville's highway network, leveraging, I think, the brave vision of the governor to move toward P3 and choice lanes. And I would like to also call your attention to a fairly simplified summary that was in the op-ed section of Sunday's paper. I got a copy for everybody, but it was miserable failure trying to distribute them. And thought that if I would just ask you to ask me, I'm happy to share it. I want to celebrate. Michael will speak to it a little later, but on May 31st, we introduced the structure for public-private partnerships that introduce incentives from regional employers and matching grants to support that. This is the rollout of the public-private message. I wanted to encourage everyone in here, if you would just bear with me for a moment, raise your hands if you have an organization that has employees. All right. Every single organization in here affiliated with the GNRC has, for no charge, a free transportation demand management software system available to you. And it uses the only incentive available to us today, which are incentives. We don't have a lot of penalties. We don't have a lot of regulation on the HOV lanes and on our infrastructure. We do have incentives. So I would advance that incentives rule the world. They may be your only option. And I appreciate your long-term vision as leaders at the Greater Nashville Regional Council and in this policy board, looking at tough decisions and trying to make long-term planning actually happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to make a public comment before we move on? Seeing none, we'll go off into our action items and we'll begin talking about agenda item 3A. I'll turn it over to Daniel.
All right, thank you, Chair. Just as a reminder, the Transportation Improvement Program is a short-range work program that covers a 4-year span. Fiscal years 2023 to 2026 is the current TIP. Lists all regionally significant and federally funded transportation projects in our MPO planning area. It has to be consistent with or selected from our long-range plan as well. Must be fiscally constrained, and then contains about $1.7 billion currently. We only have one amendment today. This is our last cycle of fiscal year 2024. It's the State Route 109 Portland bypass. You'll see in your packet, This amendment is adding about $39.4 million in federal NHPP funds for the fiscal year 2025 construction phase. I know Mayor Callis is pretty thrilled that this project is getting done. And then about $3.5 million in state funds for the fiscal year 2025 construction phase. This project is to construct a new 4-lane divided roadway. I will note that on our TIP database, you'll be able to find any document associated with this project, including the cross-section and design. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Next, we'll open up TPB 2024-08 for as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to make a comment on this item? Seeing none, I guess we'll move and ask for a motion, or maybe on this one, I prefer to have an amen. We've been waiting on this one for a long time, but I will receive a motion to approve. A motion, we have a second. Any comments? Amen. All in favor, say aye. All opposed. Next, as we continue on the memorandum of agreement, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Skipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you again this month. We have for your consideration a memorandum of agreement that was foreshadowed at your July Transportation Policy Board meeting, where you all adopted a resolution endorsing the creation of a fund swap program with the Tennessee Department of Transportation specific to the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program that comes to Tennessee. With the required mandatory sub-allocation to urban areas across the state. What we had discussed back then was the ability that staff of the MPO and TDOT have to move money around procedurally to get it obligated in a timely manner. Obligating money in a timely manner. There's a couple of benefits. One, it positions us for additional obligation authority each year through what we call the August redistribution. But also, as we apply for discretionary grants, it is in our favor to demonstrate that we have utilized as much of the formula funding that has been provided to us already. So we had a lengthy conversation about this at the last meeting. We've included in the packet a request from the Commissioner of Transportation that initiated this process. I've also included in the packet the resolution that was approved by this body in July. And then also in the packet is the memorandum of agreement that would essentially implement the intent of that resolution and get us moving forward. The MOA itself has been reviewed by TDOT. It was a joint effort to get it drafted and then shared with you all and your Transportation Coordinating Committee members a couple of weeks ago, to be more precise. We appreciate everybody taking the time to get that reviewed so that we get it into the packet for today's meeting. So, Mr. Chair, that is the staff presentation, and our request again is to approve the MOA to establish a fund swap program.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael dealing with this, or we have a representative from TDOT as well? Anybody have any questions? I think you've reviewed it. We discussed it at the TCC as well. All right. I guess next up, I'm looking for a motion to approve. Motion, do we have a second? Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed. Thank you. Next, we'll be talking about the choice lanes. Is Rebecca with us today? There you are, right there.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having us. Some of you have likely seen this presentation. Others of you have maybe heard and seen it a few times. But then there are the ones who haven't at all. So I hope that you bear with me if you have heard this. We have a few bits of new information, but just to give you an idea of where we're headed this morning. So we'll talk about choice lanes as an overview. We will talk about the actual project that's currently moving through its NEPA process, the proposed project at this point, talk about our public involvement, and then we'll take questions. I should have done this first, but just as an introduction, my name is Rebecca Hammonds. I am the Public-Private Partnership Communications Officer for TDOT. I do want to also ask, I am filling in or trying to play the role of an engineer, and I am a communications officer. So bear with me if you have questions that I may not have the exact answer to. I do have some help virtually from our TDOT team and our consultant team as well. So feel free to ask what, your burning questions, of course. So as an overview, why choice lanes? Why P3? Really boils down to two things: funding limitations, and then our desire to have a programmatic approach to relieving the massive congestion that we see on 24. The image underneath there shows what we mean by funding limitations. Throughout the state, we've identified a need for infrastructure that surpasses about $30 billion. You can see a little smaller there, the estimate of our proposed Choice Lanes project, which is about $5 billion. And then even smaller is that red circle, which shows our TDOT annual work program, which is $1.2 billion. It's not hard to show the need that's out there. I know each and every one of you all in your cities and counties have a need that you would love for us to come fix. But we just simply don't have the funds to do everything we can, which takes me to the public-private partnership, a P3. The P3 does exactly what's shown there. They will come in, or a concessionaire, a company will come in and do all of those things. They will design, build, finance, operate, and maintain. Leveraging the private sector allows TDOT to use up the funds that otherwise would have gone to a project of this magnitude and complexity to other projects, to your counties, to your cities. This is a project that, in essence, wouldn't exist without a P3 making it available to us. So that was the second point there. It also, in that third point, accelerates the project delivery. By using a private partner, we're able to bring more, I should say, are able to bring more innovation to the table. With that innovation, it speeds up the project construction and timeline, which is always a very good thing. So as a general overview, what are choice lanes? These choice lanes are the picture you're going to see there, 2 additional lanes of travel in both directions. The 4 existing general purpose lanes will remain free. The additional lanes will be price managed lanes that provide the users with a more reliable trip time. And again, as a P3, they will be designed, built, financed, operated, and maintained by that private sector partner. We know that a picture really is worth much more than some bullet points on the screen. This just gives you an idea of what they look like in other states. Just for my own knowledge, if you could, just a raise of hands, who's actually experienced choice lanes, or as we should say, express lanes somewhere else? Large portion, right? These are not new, but they are very, very new to Tennessee. And that's why we are doing what we're doing in educating the public and stakeholders like yourselves. The image of the Choice Lanes project in Virginia, there on the right side, is really what we will likely see here in the Nashville and Rutherford County area. It'll be the painted lines with the flexible delineators separating the traffic. And we'll see some other design images here in a little bit. So as far as benefits go, I want to hit on 2. There are many, but I want to hit on the 2 main ones here. That first one is the one on the left in orange: less traffic. And we mean that, less congestion across the board. Whether or not someone chooses to pay a user fee and get in the choice lane, other states have shown that that driver will see reduced congestion in their general purpose lanes because of the vehicles getting into the choice lane. And then the second one is trip times there in the navy in the middle. So for those who do choose to pay a user fee, they will experience a much more reliable trip time. You won't be stuck in the stop and go that I know many of us have experienced on 24 at this point. So not just benefits for, the general public, but benefits for transit specifically. Transit buses will operate for free in the choice lanes. So we hope that many of these things will come out of that. Obviously, the transit buses will have much more reliable trip times. There'll be much more reliable routes, improved transit movements and performance because of that. And then again, the lower point, decreased congestion because of the improvements on those routes and movements. We hope that more drivers who choose, a single occupancy vehicle will then choose to get a WeGo rider, card and choose transit instead. So therefore, again, eliminating congestion on the roadway. This is just a picture of the success that other states have seen and what we fully expect to see here in our region. One of the best statistics there from Florida, they saw a 68% reduction in travel times and saw ridership quadruple within the first 5 years. So the stats really do speak for themselves when it comes to transit. And then choice lanes will be operated by a variable dynamic pricing model. So for someone who chooses to use a choice lane, they will enter the lane under a large gantry sign. On that sign, they will see a price or prices shown above. They will then have the option to stay in their purpose lane or get into the choice lane. The price that they will see or that you might see throughout the day or week, those will change throughout the course of the day based on demand and congestion. That is how we as a state and the developer would make sure that those lanes continue to flow. As the roads become more congested, those prices will change based on traffic and based on demand. So southeast choice lanes on I-24. Right now, we are in the preliminary design and environmental studies phase. We're still very, very early in our project phase. Upcoming activities are that we're going to have our environmental documents. We're going to make policy decisions. We're going to have our RFQ out. We just recently posted our letter of procurement, and then we'll continue, of course, stakeholder engagement. And we have more information in an upcoming slide on that. But you can see there, the map shows a 26-mile footprint of what we are currently studying. Likely the first project or the first phase of this project won't stretch the entire 26 miles. But we eventually, as I mentioned, this is going to be a programmatic approach to relieving congestion. So we fully expect that entire footprint to be delivered at some point. And of course, right now, concurrently going on, we have what's called a PEL, which is a Planning and Environmental Linkages Study. The PEL study reaches far beyond this corridor. It actually covers the downtown loop and some of we call them the wheel spokes, as you would, maybe say with the loop, to further study what it would look like to branch a program like this throughout downtown Nashville and the loop. So we have a visualization video of what they could look like, whether it be entering or exiting, looking at access points. Daniel's got that queued up for me. I know.
Now, we're not starting the video all the way we did at TCC.
You just had to bring it up, didn't you? So just for background, we showed this video at TCC, and this is a YouTube link because this is available for the public. If you wanted to share this, you could. But an ad that played beforehand was someone driving off of a bridge into a lake. And so, for transportation, we're like, trust me, they didn't use a choice lane. This just shows an example of how you could have a choice lane that's actually raised, not at grade. They could be exclusive choice lane entrances, or you could have an entrance that merges directly into or out of 24.
Be sick. I think I see your. Need a grab bag or something.
We'll make sure to paint all the lanes really purple for you so that you can,
Purple and gold.
that's right. So let's see here, we'll get back. Okay, so that gave you an idea of what it would look like to actually drive through them or enter or exit them. Currently, we have what's called 2 design alternatives. We will take feedback from the public. We'll take feedback from the industry, from developers, and we will narrow that down to 1 preferred alternative plan. From that, we will then go through our procurement process. But this just shows alternative 1, and then we also have alternative 2. Now, I know it's hard to see, but all of this is available currently in our virtual public meeting room, which will stay live. I'll speak to this later, but it will stay live until tomorrow. But all of the material is also down onto the project webpage to, can click and make it larger, look through it. You can see that some of the access points, like I mentioned, they are choice lane only access points. Some of them are merges into and out of 24 itself, and then others will show what will be new. So what I do want to stress is any access point that currently is there will remain. We are not going to remove any general purpose access. That's not what we want to do. This is all in addition to. This is a look at the proposed typical sections. You've got your general purpose, your HOV, and then the flexible delineators, 2 choice lanes, and then median. And then a look at the proposed typical section for those elevated structures. And again, all of this, if you'd like to take a deeper dive, it's all available on our website. Our timeline. So we are currently in environmental studies and preliminary design. We just recently in August completed our public comment period ends tomorrow. So I will stress, if you would like to put your public comment on the record as far as our design alternatives go, please do so. That will end tomorrow. But we will continue our education and stakeholder engagement, community engagement throughout the life of this project. You can see that the RFQ, we plan to go out 2025, commercial close 26, and if everything goes according to plan, construction in 2027. So as far as the public's involvement goes, I just mentioned the public meetings that we had in August. We had 1 virtual, that was a live stream, and then it was coupled with our virtual public meeting room where all of the same materials were presented there as what was in person. And then the August 21st, 28th, and 29th were all in person. We will have another round of this public meetings, but they will be public hearings in the spring of next year. Those will be as a result of what our environmental studies findings were. And at that point, we'll present those findings, and we will also present the preferred alternative design. So this is just a very small snapshot of what we've been doing. We have been engaging with several communities along the corridor, whether it be a fall festival, the Nashville Couriers Council. We've met with Metro Council members, Smyrna. I mean, we even went and put a table up at the Let Freedom Sing event in downtown Nashville. So we're really trying to reach as many people as we can. I'm sure you would understand when I say that this is a first for Tennessee, and a large portion of the Tennessee's general population has not experienced an express lane. And then, of course, don't know what a choice lane would be. So we're trying to do as much education as possible so that they are receiving the right information to know that, you know, we're not taking anything away from you. This is all in addition to, and this is a choice. It is in the name. This is strictly a choice. And then I did want to highlight just the engagement with you all, with the GNRC specifically. So we've had some updates in the past. I know we briefed you all in February and then earlier in September with the TCC. Upcoming, I know we're in conversations with Skipper and of course Matt's talking with them just about what we can do in the future. We do want to have the opportunity or the chance to give you all much more of a robust, in-depth look at what a project like this takes. So workshops that can cover different topics like the actual P3 delivery process, a deep dive into the alternatives and what that might mean, a public hearing preview once we get to that point, and then any updates on our actual procurement process once that time comes as well. Oh, and I know currently we are working on the TIP application to then, of course, get that into hopefully the November meeting. So that's also in process. So I say all of this to say that we humbly come before you. We need your help if possible. So because of the education effort and the actual engagement effort that we're putting forward, we know that we couldn't do it without you all. So there are several ways that you can help us or that, you know, you can educate the public. Encourage your employees or constituents to, you know, come to the public hearings once they happen in the spring. We have a stakeholder toolkit with all of the information that you could possibly think of to make sure that they receive the right info. You know, even if it's something as simple as sharing our social media content, all of the above would be helpful. In this world of social media, so much information gets shared. But I don't think it's any news that sometimes it's not the right information and sometimes it's not correct. So whether or not someone is for or against the project, we actually just want to make sure that they have the correct information. And we know that a group like this is where that starts. So this is just to wrap us, connect with us. There are several ways to connect with us. I mean, even if it's just calling Matt, just give him a call and he'll reach out to our team. But this is something you can share with your constituents or your community members. They can call our hotline. They can sign up for text messages. They can email us. These are all ways that anyone can get in touch with our P3 team. And then that QR code is the project webpage. So with that, I will open it for questions. Anyone has any?
Mayor, Chairman, or for Rebecca, I'm curious about right of way. I don't know how much right of way you have when you build the interstate, particularly I-24 corridor. Is there much right of way acquisition necessary?
So we're finding that out currently because we're so early in our design phase. We are doing everything to limit the right-of-way impacts that we can. I'm sure you can imagine that a lot of it is very restricted in that corridor, which is why some of this will need to be elevated. We expect the right-of-way fingings to be presented, I think, around 25. Like our right-of-way process will begin around 25. So I'm going to actually toss virtually to my team. Tom, I'm going to ask you for some help. Do you by chance know or have any input?
Yeah, no, as Rebecca mentioned, the preliminary design that's being conducted as part of the NEPA process is intended to minimize right-of-way impacts. We obviously don't know at this point in time what the magnitude of those impacts will be, but we'll know more clearly as we continue to advance that design process. And then as we engage with the developer community during the procurement process, we'll have even more of more intelligence around those right-of-way impacts. So a lot more to come on that front, but a critical consideration of the project for sure.
Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation, Rebecca. Thank you. So at the beginning of the video, you had HOV lane and somewhere in the middle of the video, you didn't have it. What's it gonna be? Will we continue to have HOV lane or will the
Okay,
choice lane
I'm-
take place?
That I may have the wrong edit, so forgive me on that. The HOV will remain. That is not up for debate. It was an error on maybe me grabbing the wrong edit of the video. That is not a question at all. HOV will remain. It will be part of the 4 lanes that are currently there. We are adding the 2 additional lanes of travel, both directions, that will just be user-fee lanes. Yes.
We had a great discussion at TCC on this in the presentation, and Jim was bringing up about future access points. I believe Jim had that, and that has been part of the discussion because you are looking at right of way. One of the concerns is, are you narrowing this down for the future access points? Because once it's built out, it's hard to acquire. And then relocation of utilities that are in the right of way by smaller communities or any community becomes very expensive.
Facilities relocation, that's always a breeze.
It's a breeze if TDOT pays for it. It's a headache.
Oh gosh, I
We
didn't even
we
think
have
about
to pay
that.
for it, so, but the future, like Jim was talking about, is important. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, because you had a good discussion then.
I think we've had several conversations about, I know that we, us and Smyrna both have some, with our major transportation plans, have additional interchanges along that corridor, and how would that, how will this project actually affect those? And I think that's part of the planning process that we're going through.
It is. So I think I want to level set, because and these questions may not have been brought up from you all, but I do want to level set and say anything currently in the 10-year plan moves forward as expected. Additional projects or additional interchanges outside of that, yes, we understand that this is a massive, like our director calls it a mega project, right? So what we don't want to do is design our way into a corner where future work can't happen. So that's part of our design process, especially even in the environmental studies, of making sure that those access points are placed very strategically. So I don't have specific answers on those, like the specific points and why or why not they're there, only because I'm not the designer and can't answer that. But I can tell you that future growth and expansion is something that we are keeping or being very mindful of, even with conversations that we're having with those developers and concessionaires.
Rebecca, first of all, appreciate you incorporating purple into your logo design.
It might just be the express lane color, but we always thought of.
But another question I had, I understand that transit vehicles will have free access to the choice lanes. Does the project contemplate including the transit facilities, park and ride lots, transit centers being included in the, in the actual project scope?
Yeah. In short, yes. But of course, there's always nuance to that answer, right? So again, in the design phase, we're making sure that we anticipate new and planned transit centers. The idea and the thought behind park and rides is kind of ever evolving, because it's conversations with our design team, our environmental team, and also, developers that we're having these conversations with. The thought of, okay, does that wrapped into a contract, or is that added later? Is that added now? What does that look like? So, yes, the answer is yes, that we are planning around those things and making sure to be cognizant of that, but we're still very early in the phase there. Tom, I know we had additional conversations about that topic. Do you have any other additions that I didn't point out?
No, I don't. That was great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Angie Henderson, Vice Mayor of Nashville. Thank you so much for meeting with our council members. We've been sharing some of these webinars and online with the body. I appreciate the mayor's question about the HOV lanes. And so I just wanted to ask from the technology perspective, right? So if you have the dynamic pricing, if this is a smart corridor, you know, the struggle with the HOV lanes heretofore has been they're not enforced, right? So you got the diamonds on the road, but it's pretty meaningless. And so is there a companion opportunity with the associated technology to then have the HOV lanes enforced, speeding enforcement, you know, all the associated technology in this corridor that is all compatible? And what would that look like?
Right. So, I understand the frustration with HOV lanes. We all do, right? You know, I'll admit I ride in them when I'm probably not supposed to, right? But when it comes to, yeah, I know, write it down. When it comes to an HOV for user fee purposes, so there's legalities around it. TDOT actually can't implement the tech to then have a ticket come out of it. So the enforcement of an HOV, you would need some kind of tech on the corridor to then give a ticket, correct? Well, we cannot be that agency legally to implement that tech and then write a ticket for someone having a moving violation for an HOV.
Requires a policy change, is what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so, but there is conversation and many questions that we receive about HOV to HOT and what that looks like. Right now, currently, the department's stance is that we aren't going to be like rolling them into the user fee lanes. But your request as far as like making sure that the tech is supported and might implement enforcement for the HOVs that will be there, that would surpass TDOT's ability. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Any other questions for Rebecca?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I've got one because I'm all time. I'm looking at this picture, and this morning I was coming in and we had an accident right there at Trinity Lane. And of course, it became a parking lot real quick. If everybody jumped on them choice lanes right quick, how does that affect the traffic accident?
Well, I mean, it would be good for
It'd be good.
both, but I'll stop you there. It wouldn't be good for the actual use of the choice lane. So unfortunately, because we are meeting with law enforcement and task forces, and you know, we've met with Rutherford County and Metro, different agencies along the corridor. They will ask the same question. You know, when there is that rollover or that crash that blocks the lanes, which happens all the time, can we divert traffic in the choice lanes? The current answer right now is no, because in theory, that would happen so often that it would not allow the choice lanes to function as they should. So it really becomes more of a problem than it does an answer.
Questions for Rebecca?
Mr. Chair, I think I really appreciate the conversation this morning. A lot of the topics that y'all brought to TDOT's attention were also discussed under Josh's leadership at the Transportation Debating Committee, particularly around transit and the specific timing of when to spec out what we would like to get out of this project to support transit in terms of bid specs, or, you know, short of the conversation about whether or not it's a required specification or an incentivized specification in response to the RFP or whatever procurement document will be called when we get to that stage. So a lot of conversation about that amongst the TCC incident response, not only in terms of the general purpose lanes being able to be diverted, but just the responsibilities for incident response, if that's on the developer or on the current infrastructure that's there in the way of the TDOT help trucks and local law enforcement, state highway patrol. There's also a conversation pertaining to, you're going to be asked probably in the next few months to amend the TIP. First, we're going to ensure compliance with the regional transportation plan, which is a requirement just to make sure it's in the fiscally constrained list. If it's not, we'll have to amend the plan to get it to a TIP action. But there was also a question, I just mean this rhetorically today, but you know, you could share what the source of funding would be, but some questions about should there be a need for additional public funding into this project beyond the anticipation of the fee revenue, you know, what the source of that funding would be. And I know you shared that would come from the designated pot from the Modernization Act.
Yeah, so he's speaking on the Transportation Modernization Act, which passed last year. There was 250 million set aside specifically for choice lanes if there is a public contribution necessary. We've seen in other states that there are times that a developer will come to the table and they win the bid and they say, we actually are not going to ask for a public contribution. We're actually going to give you X amount in concession. So we don't know what will happen. It's because we're just so early in everything. But that 250 million is what has been designated or set aside if we need it.
Well, then maybe just, this is commentary, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but it'd be really awesome if they don't request the public contribution, and then that could be used to pay for the transit components that the private sector may not want to provide through their development proposal. So, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to share the conversation that we had at TCC, which I thought was also really a good conversation.
Great.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for your update. And some of you, I'm sure you had these meetings, some of us here serve them forward. Sumner, probably almost 2 years ago, we had a meeting talking about enforcement of speed or HOV on the interstate. One of the things that was shared with us by the commissioner at that time was that enforcement is difficult because you create more traffic jams. You can't pull somebody over. How do you manage that in the middle of rush hour? These are the things that are not easy, but just share with you, I'm sure y'all have had those meetings as well, why it's difficult to be done along the way. Next up, report from Federal Highway. Dan, are you doing that today?
Yep.
All right.
Morning, everyone. I'm Dan Hinton, Federal Highway Division Administrator here for Tennessee. I think I met some of you last fall. I was here on a temporary assignment. Through like last November, I got selected for the permanent position in April. So I came here in June, so I've been here 3 or 4 months now. I'm really happy to be here. I came from our Georgia division, so I'm happy to be out of Atlanta, to be honest with you. But love Tennessee. I'm glad to be here. And I actually started my career with Federal Highways on the Natchez Trace Parkway for construction. The segments on either side of the Arch Bridge. Arch Bridge was under design when I was there, so very happy to be here. Just a couple comments. I've kind of build on what Michael was talking about with your MOA and that. Thank you for doing that. That really helped us out with the August redistribution. I don't want to get into what August redistribution is, but essentially Federal Highways provides some additional funding limitations, obligation limitations to the states every August. So the money that is available from other programs is kind of redistributed to the states for the states to use for additional projects. And the past few years, those amounts have been increasing quite significantly, and it's been a struggle for the states to kind of accommodate that. But the bottom line is, if we couldn't reach that, this year it was 8.7 billion, and if we couldn't use all that money, it would have been lost. And when we're going back for highway, reauthorizations, and if we're not spending all our money, it's hard for them to give us more money. So really appreciate the work that Tennessee did, TDOT did with the MPOs, Nashville, to figure out a way an innovative way to use to swap those fundings around to use those funds. And it really helped. And we did meet the goal, actually nationwide. And it's not just a Tennessee issue. It's a nationwide issue. And Tennessee really stepped up in big time to close the gap. We had about $800 million in July that we needed to close, and I think Tennessee used about 300 million of that. So really stepped up, and really appreciate the efforts that everybody did to meet that. There is potential fixes for that. It could be in the appropriations bill. But those numbers we're still going to see those numbers. If they don't get fixed, those numbers are going to continue to grow. If it is fixed, we'll start seeing them go down a little bit, but it still will be a big amount probably next August, regardless of the fix or not. But I know we went through some hoops this year, and hopefully we'll see what we can do next year. So Also, just want to mention a couple things at the MPO conference in August. I mentioned a couple of the administration's priorities of safety and equity. And I just want, one, thank y'all. I know y'all do a lot of great work, and it all starts here in the planning process in addressing the safety and equity needs when you're developing your plans. And on the equity standpoint, it's ensuring that all populations are have access to the transportation system, can either through the highways or the transit system, be able to get from home to work or to stores, to healthcare, to education. So making sure that they have that access. And then also making sure that they're involved with the process, that they have a voice and they're involved with the decision-making process. And then finally, the last thing is a lot of our projects, especially the highway projects, are impact some of the lower economic communities. And we got to make sure when we're doing that we are mitigating any of those impacts and that these communities are receiving benefits from our projects, not just the impacts. And, that, again, it all starts when we're identifying projects and we can identify those communities and then identify any mitigation opportunities. On the safety side, again, including any type of safety countermeasures in the in our projects early on in the process to make sure that they're carried through. Because if you're not putting them in there, they're harder to get in with the budget. And if you need additional right of way or whatever, adding bike lanes, adding any type of safety feature, we have proven safety countermeasures that Federal Highway is promoting to use to add to projects to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make our roads as safe as possible. Because at the end of the day, we want to get to zero fatalities. We've had about, on average, 42,000, 43,000 a year nationwide, and that's way too many. If that was a plane, if we were losing that many in plane crashes, it would be all over the news and unacceptable. And it seems like as a nation, we've come to accept those deaths. And we really want to get to zero. It seems like an impossible goal, but in reality, if you ask yourself, what would be the goal from your family, it would be zero. So that, we got to get to zero. Just want to, again, thank you for all the work that y'all do in those areas and just, continue to emphasize that when you're looking at projects. Just also want to, congratulate Metro Nashville for the recent grant for the charging and fueling infrastructure. About 4.7 million for about 40 EV charging stations across the Nashville area. So great work. And I know Nashville, the metro area, has gotten a lot of grants through the different programs, and I just encourage to continue to apply for those grants. And we have our office is staffed up to help deliver those grants. And that's, in the end, that's what it's about, is getting all this money out implemented so that the public can use it. I'll just to close, just want to, let you know some funding opportunities that are going to be closing here in the next couple months. We have the culvert removal, replacement and restoration grant program that grants are due next week, September 23rd. The railroad crossing elimination program grants also September 23rd. The Reconnecting Communities pilot program grants are due September 30th. The bridge investment planning grants are due October 1st. And then the bridge investment program project grants, and those are for small projects, bridges under 100 million, are due November 11th. And I will mention, Tennessee did get one of the large bridge improvement grants for the Memphis I-25 bridge in Memphis. So, a lot of money coming to Tennessee. And then the last one is the low carbon transportation materials grant, which is due November 25th. So that's all I have, unless y'all have any questions for me.
Any questions for them? All right, thank you. Next up is our TDOT report. Matt, you doing that today?
I will. Yeah, I have one thing I wanted to bring up, the statewide partnership program, the progress report. So that closed on August 30th. We received 76 applications across the state. 34 of those came from the Nashville area. Next steps are to process those, kind of vet those through the system, and then produce a list back to the MPO two questions, to answer two questions. One is, were these projects sent, vetted through you all through the process? And two, are they consistent with the plan? Once we get those answers, we'll follow up with another email that's basically going to request the MPOs to rank the projects that they felt should have been an SPP project, but were not considered or were not applied for. So we can have a better idea of what is out there that we need to potentially use as discussions for further SPP requests, or even to reach out to the legislature. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate that. We've added to the agenda. We're going to start hearing from the chair of the TCC report. And so today I've asked Josh, as the chair, to share it with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Josh Suddeth. I'm the Director of Planning and Engineering for Sumner County Government. And Mayor Cowles, I appreciate you adding this to the agenda and letting us speak today. I'm sure you guys all know, y'all have professional planners and engineers on staff who go to the TCC, who are members of the TCC, the Technical Coordinating Committee. What the TCC does, and to my mind, I believe Mike would agree, it's, our job is to help advise you guys. Y'all are the policy makers. The TCC is an advisory body, but I think more importantly, or just as importantly, it's an opportunity for all the professional staff who deal with TDOT day to day to get together, to interact with MPO, to interact with TDOT, to get educated about the things that are coming to you guys and to talk to you guys about, one-on-one, offline at City Hall or whatever, about the things that we're working on. And so I really appreciate Michael and the GNRC for the support of the TCC. We've been making some changes lately. We've adopted a set of bylaws. I think they've been doing a great job of working the TCC into the process, overall the decision-making process. I was going to say something about Daniel, but I'll hold off on making any comments about Daniel until Michael gets his report here in just a minute. But we had a good meeting, Mayor, as you said, at the TCC here a couple of weeks ago. If you get a bunch of planners together, I know y'all have planners on staff. They like to talk, if y'all have noticed. And so it was a great meeting. Heard from TDOT as well, talked about a few other things. And so, like I said, Mayor, I appreciate y'all putting us on the agenda.
Thank you, Josh. Just really quick as a chair's report, one thing that we've talked about, we need to see about maybe reconstituting the task force or in some similar vein that we've done before to get with TDOT, dealing with the local programs. I know all that's being revamped and looked at. It'd be a great time for us to kind of come back together. Been a little while since we've met and go over that. So maybe we'll be reaching out to some folks that would like to maybe get back together on that, do that. I thank Josh I was going to mention that you make sure you get with your planner to talk about any updates. So since he mentioned that, I guess because during the RTA meeting, it was mentioned that John Rose's office was helping do some recreation. So Ray said that you're going to put gold stripes on all of the buses because he's getting funding out of the checkbook. Remember, see, try here. I got more checks. Maybe you got to do that because he loves the purple and gold.
Red rose on them.
Oh, there we go. Okay. And we've got to quickly go through. We'll go to staff because they said if we didn't get out by 11:45, Mayor Hutto had to buy lunch because his meeting ran over. So we can finish up in time.
Move it up. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I didn't know what to do about that. But I'll try to be as brief as I can. Before I get into the packet, there's quite a bit of narrative in the staff report, so that you have it in writing after you leave for today. But before I get to the packet, I do want to just say how grateful I was to be on the Power of Intent panel with Commissioner Ely yesterday and Mayor Moore and Mayor Bell, who I think have become best friends. Y'all did a great job yesterday representing the Transportation Policy Board and the Greater Nashville Regional Council. And I appreciate the moderation by Aaron Haftkinshill, who's as part of what we're doing regionally and across the state to support our transportation initiatives as anyone. So I really appreciate that opportunity. I want to thank you all for lending your time to do that. I also want to thank Mayor Pitts for being here. He's the chair of the Greater Nashville Regional Council, actively involved in the board of the Clarksville MPO. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to work across those MPO boundaries and in partnership with the RPOs to tackle transportation across the Middle Tennessee region, the geography that most people think about, which isn't often MPO boundaries. So thank you for being here, Mayor Pitts. I also wanted to mark Cleveland's presentation at the beginning of this, just to remind you all at GNRC.org/hitch. It's how you can find information about how to get enrolled into the incentive program for ride sharing to and from work. That includes ride sharing by car, ride sharing by bus. It's just you've got to hitch with somebody else. If you do that, you will be rewarded. But we launched that program a couple of months ago, and that is there for your information. Looking into the packet now, the first report I wanted to share was just a quick update to let you all know that we did successfully submit a regional application to the US DOT Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. We're asking for $10 million to stand up to do three things that are outlined in your packet. One is to work with local law enforcement, and Vice Mayor Henderson, you had a lot to do with shaping our collaboration with local law enforcement to really study through pre and post study of countermeasures that are being deployed by patrol to see what is the most effective, but also benchmark funding levels for local patrol and law enforcement to other regions. How are we doing in terms of funding these programs? What programs are the most effective? And then we've also, Daniel and Max on our staff have had just tremendous conversations with local law enforcement about accessing some of the big data sets that we procure on behalf of the region so that they have more real-time information of traffic hotspots and potential violations so that they can direct law enforcement to the places that make the most sense in terms of protecting safety. So that's one of the activities. The second activity is to stand up a regional tactical urbanism program. Nashville DOT has done just really a tremendous effort of tapping into the Civic Design Center here locally to engage the community through these tactical urbanism projects that help not only involve the community in improving safety, but begin to help people understand how more permanent infrastructure improvements can improve quality of life. So we're looking to expand that regionally outside of Davidson County through this grant. And then lastly, maybe most importantly, I think, is piloting a quick build program, whereas we regionally bundle regionally and administer regionally, like safety countermeasures you may be doing yourself through the local programs process. So we're looking for fast lane with TDOT to get these projects implemented on the ground. These would not initially be projects that required any sort of NEPA work beyond categorical exclusions or any right-of-way acquisition, but we are actually looking to deploy safety countermeasures across Middle Tennessee through a new quick build program. I'm very excited about that application. We should hear something in November about that. The application's online at gnrc.org/SS4A. Link is in your packet. Second is we've been working with your staff and Josh and the Transportation Coordinating Committee on identifying revisions to the Federal Functional Classification System. Right now, we're evaluating local requests. The list of those requests are in your packet. My point here is to make sure that you're looking at that list, and if we've missed anything from a local perspective as to what needs to be added to the Federal Functional Classification map, that you can let our staff know. That contact information is in the packet. The third item is the regular tip status report, which I will give Taylor Lee an opportunity to speak to, but we do have a graphic for that, Daniel, if you want to move on to that. Just a look at where we are with obligating funds in a 4-year CIP.
Good morning, everybody. I'll be quick. I know we're getting short on time. The good news here, you see that moving up. I think last time I said 44%. I didn't think about all the additional, as part of the fund swap, the TDOT funds are being obligated as well. So as we see here, we expect to be at 52%. So a little bit above, and the halfway point will be slightly above the mark, moving towards the fiscal year 25. Do have some good news, and Mayor Moore just stepped out. I asked TDOT and FHWA to hold the obligation for McEwen until this morning. I just got an email saying that project, so $30 million of USVG was obligated. So Mayor Moore, I don't know if you heard that McEwen Drive was obligated this morning. I got an email from TDOT local programs office. So you should,
Thank you.
the city should be getting a note. I'm sorry, Jim, I'm still working on yours.
Next meeting, Jim.
So that's a big chunk to go to that 52%. That's $30 million of sub-allocated dollars. So we're making really good progress to get back on track and ahead of track moving forward in the next couple of months. So as you go forward in the staff report, there's some asterisks on those obligations because they were fund swap obligations. So technically use that sub-allocated dollars that they have for TDOT projects. So if you look in there, there's some of those and asterisks so you can see. But do you have any questions regarding the staff report? Anything I can help answer?
Well, thank you, Taylor. I think most of you began to take advantage of Taylor's position on our staff. If you're not reaching out to him on a daily basis to help get us assistance moving your projects through the local programs process, please begin to do that. I just want to commend him though for this chart on the screen. You've heard at these meetings for a long time now the slow rate of obligating federal funds. And what he is essentially saying is that at the midway point of our 4-year TIP, we will have obligated slightly more than half of the Federal Highway Administration grant funds, which is a tremendous feat. That also, I think that project delivery task force that Mayor Callis mentioned earlier deserves a lot of credit for. I think it is important to reconvene that body. There's been a lot of recent sort of temporary streamlining that TDOT has been willing to get underway to get to this September 30th deadline, actually it's a little bit before that, but that we would like to reconvene that group to talk about maybe more permanent streamlining moving forward. Looking at upcoming meetings very quickly, we appreciate Rebecca being here this morning. We are also working with Matt, his staff, to dedicate the TCC meeting in October. So I put that in the packet as well. This is a potential opportunity for you to dive deeper into the P3 work that TDOT is doing, even beyond the I-24 corridor. So we'll likely have this at the same regular time as the TCC meeting, but just wanted to put this on your radar as something that you want to make sure your staff gets there, but you'd be welcome to attend as well. The regional council body will meet in this room October 16th. We're going to be discussing a regional effort to create county level brownfields inventories to help pursue either economic development or conservation initiatives that are important to you all locally, but the state has put a lot of funding into brownfields identification and remediation and redevelopment, and we want to make sure that you're going to take advantage of that opportunity. And then the next meeting of this Transportation Policy Board is on November 20th. I believe this is at the State Archives, but you know, we've been playing musical chairs quite a bit, so I don't want to confuse you this morning. We'll just kind of announce that location as we get closer to the date. So that is a look at upcoming meetings. I'm going to end my remarks this morning by thanking Daniel Caparella for his 5 years of service to GNRC. He started with us as an intern 5 years ago, which is kind of important to me because I started my career with the Nashville MPO as an intern as well. But that was 20 something years ago. Anyway, Daniel's growth in 5 years has been absolutely tremendous. Again, started as an intern, moved back to the region from California, and just, you know, as he sort of grew into his position, was asked to do more and more. And as you all know, he's been working directly with Josh to facilitate the Transportation Coordinating Committee and get information prepared for that group. You all see him here at these meetings, essentially serving in the role as an MPO coordinator at a stage in his career that most don't have that opportunity. He has gotten that opportunity and really made a lot of it. So I'd probably like to go to this next slide. Oh no, we don't have the right slides. I had a photo collage of Daniel's greatest work.
Daniel, I know you're so bummed.
Daniel's slides must have.
I did not see those.
Accidentally deleted it, didn't.
So, but anyway, I know that the chairs of our coordinating committee and policy board also want to say some nice things about Daniel. He's staying in the MPO process. He's going to go to Vanderbilt and be engaged in things that we do on transportation. But Michael Briggs is the one to thank for Daniel's departure or on a mechanical level. But Mayor Callis, Josh, anything to add?
Well, Josh, I know, go ahead and.
Absolutely, Daniel, you've done a fantastic job. He's been anytime we have questions, anytime, he's just a resource to everybody that's on the TCC. And, more than that, I know we all have employees sometimes that big responsibility comes their way and they shy away from it. Maybe they don't want to do it. They don't want to take it on, whatever. Daniel's not one of those guys. And so Daniel, there's been a lot of things that have come Daniel's way, and Daniel has handled them all. And he's done a fantastic job over the last couple of years. He stepped up into the breach, and I know everybody really appreciates him. So we're gonna miss you. And so
Yeah, you've done a great job. He's always quick to get back with you. Anytime you got a question or something, he's always willing to do that. And when he called and let me know, I'm excited for you. I really am. It's a great move, and I think you're gonna do wonderful. Let's give him a big hand. Appreciate it. Don't wait on the picture collage when you're not here. I'll show that maybe at a meeting that you don't attend, but Any other addition I see? So it appears we're past 11:45, but you actually technically got your motion in before.
Got coffee and donuts out here outside. Have yourself.
All right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really appreciate all the words from Michael and you all. I've really enjoyed working with all of you. The locals are why I do the job. So I've just, the trust y'all have had in me to get your projects to the finish line and answer questions. I've really enjoyed it. I've cut my teeth here from my career. Obviously started as an intern. I didn't know anything about the MPO. Just thank my team for helping me along the way and GNRC for the opportunities.
Appreciate you. Thank you. All right, we're adjourned if nothing else. All right, thank you.
Please leave your name, tents on the sidewalk.
I believe like you.
So you still No, I said separate PowerPoint, Michelle.
Don't leave your name cards.
Right now, then it's like.
Ma'am, appreciate you. Yeah.
Don't want to get nauseated watching that.
Good food, nice people, lots of places.
I gotta go print that.
Loving it.
I'm gonna go print that.
I've got several parked here.
That's right.
See you again.
Good to meet you.
And I'll just everyone.
Glad you're here.